done their homework, watched Wednesday Night StarCraft as any good team should do if they're hoping to take 4 games off of the team vVv. They should know a little bit about his playstyle and perhaps come to the table a little bit prepared as Game 3 is getting underway. Terran versus Protoss here on Shakura's Plateau. Ruff spawning on the top right-hand side of the map as the red Terran player. Meanwhile, Kodak spawning on the bottom left-hand side of the map. A full cross spawn as the light blue Protoss player.
Yeah, and typically we've seen in PvT a lot of one racks and one gate expansions. Sometimes both players just sort of say to themselves, okay, let's at least establish 2 bases before we go for any sort of aggression. And it's sort of a silent handshake thing where both players do that. But then you have other strategies where you can get early aggression, 2, 3 racks to try to shut down that early 1 gate expo, or you can go for a traditional 4 gate and bust the early bunkers that a Terran player tries to push down or put down. So we'll see what happens. I imagine we'll at least have 2 bases established early on by both players.
All right, so we'll see what's going to happen with Ruff. Ruff does have that supply depot being built on the front door. A very common strategy now. Terran players really don't like to have an early Zealot chrono boosted and walking around inside a base, as one Zealot does a lot more damage than 2 Marines, and just because of the amount of DPS, simply as range doesn't make that much of a difference early on, as we now see Kodak starting to do his scouting. So we'll see if Kodak is, yes, Kodak is going to scout and see if there is any cheese behind that brush before continuing out. So it looks like Kodak has done his homework.
Yeah, another thing that Supply Depot does is it allows you to wall off a little bit, and though Ruff didn't place that barracks there, but a lot of times we're seeing Terran players start that second Supply Depot a little bit earlier just to deny that scout. If your opponent doesn't know whether you went gas first or not, it definitely, they're playing in the dark. They don't know whether you have another command center or 2 going down behind the wall you've made, or whether you're teching up, because they just don't know the gas situation. And they a lot of times choose the wrong strategy to counter just because they don't know what you're going for. It can be so risky going for those early economic plays if your opponent is going for aggressive play. We do see a Marine coming out. I imagine maybe have a tech lab added to that barracks, and yeah, there it is. So Ruff going to start out with at least a tech lab, and I'd predict what he's going for, but it's so difficult to predict with Ruff.
All right, we're going to see the Marine now trying to go after that probe. The probe is taking a little bit of damage. The probe is now stuck inside the main base. Kodak does know his opponent did go for a refinery just by looking at the tech lab. And we'll see now more Marines being trained as we are now going for early stim. So, yeah, I hate making predictions with Ruff. Early stim with Marines, and this seems more like murder than, say, Ruff at this stage.
Yeah, more of an old school strategy. Ruff, if he'd come out with concussive shell, I thought he might do something cute with some marauders, but instead of going for that very early stim, and this sort of timing can take advantage of a fast expanding Protoss player. We do have Kodak going for that 1 gate expo, and yeah, players chattering a little bit. Ruff saying he's going to play standard, and Kodak saying he's going to play DTs, but Ruff is going to have a timing with stim almost halfway done at this point. We'll see whether he's able to get out enough units to really make stim effective this early, though.
Yeah, normally when I see Terran players trying to go for bio like that, that first add-on is normally a reactor. The second add-on is stim, in order to get a large enough Marines to make stim actually useful. The stim is going to be completed well in time before any Marines are going to get addicted to that drug, as we now see an SCV try to sneak its way up. It will be able to get inside the base. One more shot will do it, but he does get inside. He does see the double gas, and Kodak not doing the stutter step, unable to really stop and prevent any serious scouting.
So this is going to be Ruff's 2 medevac, +1 stim and combat shield timing with a ton of Marines. So he's already added his second racks with a reactor, and now he's going to prove me wrong by adding marauders to this. But he got down the engineering bay. Here's +1, and there's that factory. We'll see whether he follows up with a starport with his next 100 gas, or once he gets a little bit of minerals. He is in position with an SCV to do that, but also pushing out here pretty early with these Marine stim is about to finish, and he's got a marauder or 2 on the way as well, so perhaps hoping to whittle down the early forces of Kodak.
We'll see. Combat Shield is not being researched. You can see that level 1 weapons upgrade just got started as a little bit of lag from the managers coming in. But we'll see. Only one Marine being trained at a time. Not quite sure what's going on with Ruff. Ruff needs to stay up on top of his macro as we are getting a probe trying to sneak inside and perhaps try to hide itself and be able to set up some sort of proxy pylon. Combat Shield is now being added. So it will be upgraded 1-0 Marines with Stim and Combat Shield as Ruff is doing a little bit of retreating. He did posture himself. He did move out a little bit of a maneuver that normally happens against Zerg players where you force a Zerg player to try to train up more units instead of drones. And it looks like Kodak did train up a little bit more Stalkers, but that's not really going to do much as Ruff now needs to perhaps follow this up with either an all-in or perhaps get up another command center. Otherwise, he will be very far behind, especially with the robotics bay now coming online.
Yeah, I think this is, again, just going to be 2 medevacs with the +1 and Stim Combat Shield timing here. It's something that Ruff likes to do against fast expanding Protoss and Protoss to go for early tech. And we have a robotics bay going down for Kodak, so this is playing right into Ruff's hands. If he's able to barrel down the front door, Combat Shield and +1 about to finish. He's got these 2 medevacs as well, and this is going to be a very scary push for him at the front door of Kodak. But again, it's one base. It's all in for the most part. If Kodak is able to do a decent job and hold this off, he could be in a very powerful position in this game.
All right, we'll see what's going to be happening next. The Marines are just going to simply walk up the front door. The one Marine is on Stim. Here we go. Immortal's now trying to come in, and the Marines and the Marauders are battling out. The Sentry quickly focused down. The one Immortal already down. The second Immortal going to get taken down as well. The Marines are stutter stepping as the Zealots are able to keep track and keep up. The Marines still trying to fight back and able to take down a lot of probes so far, as I do not see a Colossus coming out yet. More and more Marines coming back in. The stutter step still working out. One Marauder absorbing up a lot more damage than it really should. And now the Marines trying to go up against Stalkers. It looks like some of the Stalkers will get taken down. 2 Stalkers go down as the probes still engaging back and forth. More stutter stepping. And Ruff with that timing doing very beautifully, taking down a lot of probes and maybe able to take down perhaps this natural expansion here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He doesn't have any follow-up to this, so he was able to do a lot of economic damage there. 22 probes killed, and now Ruff has the advantage, 30 to 29, so any damage he does at this point is just sort of bonus. He is going to stim and try to run away here. Both medevacs very low on energy, and these units, it looks like Kodak not going to chase those down, so getting away free. And if we look at the units lost, wow, 700 resources lost for Ruff, 3,000 for Kodak. So Kodak did have that early expansion, and that gave him the economic advantage, but Ruff just took it back by killing all those probes and getting an expansion of his own.
Well, interestingly enough, we are still even on Harvesters, 33 to 34, so pretty much has evened things up. If you take a look at the losses, it is 775 versus 3150, but I'm not sure if Kodak has, it looks like as though Kodak had more money to spend, so he perhaps did trade pretty efficiently. Ruff is at 66 food, Kodak is at 61. It's really going to come down to the upgrades as we are now going into 1-1 Marines. Yeah. Armor upgrades about to complete, and here we go. But there is a Colossus and 1 Marine trapped on the wrong side.
Yeah, that's going to shut down this pressure from Ruff. He does not want to take on that Colossi until he gets a pretty large force here. Maybe trying to bait out a few more force fields from Kodak, and there goes another one, but he does not want to take this on. He doesn't have enough units, really. He is doing his best to stutter step back with that Stim micro, but he is really endangering his medevacs at this point, and his units, maybe perhaps trying to get Kodak to overextend a little bit and really pick off 1 or 2 units at a time in very small numbers with Stim. These barracks units do very well against the gateway units of a Protoss player, so Ruff really taking advantage of that dynamic.
All right, and Ruff getting, once again, a little bit more cute, dropping a factory inside the base of Kodak and trying to train up some Hellions to do a little bit of harassment. It looks like that will get cleaned up before anything else happens. We only have 1 starport operational, so we are only going to be getting 2 Vikings up at a time. The current Viking count up to 2. We will be getting up to 4 in just a second. And the key question is whether or not these medevacs have enough energy. They should most likely be repaired. They have taken a lot of damage. A dead medevac is no use at all, as you do need the healing on those Marines and the Marauders to keep all of those units alive.
Yeah, now the medevac's going to meet the forces of Kodak here center. of the field. And as you mentioned, having those medevacs alive and not dead, it sounds like a silly thing to say, but the fact that Ruff was able to keep those medevacs alive and all these little pushes and aggressions, he just allows him to use that starport to get up Vikings instead. So now he is double pumping Vikings instead of replacing those medevacs, and that's just really key. The Protoss player wants to focus down both Vikings and medevacs in any encounter that they get into with the Terran player, just to force, you know, overproduction or production of those air units, having to choose between Vikings and medevacs. Now Ruff does have 6 Vikings out, a 7th and 8th on the way, so he's going to do his best to focus down these Colossi. One of them might go down right away there, so now just 1 Colossi left. That's going to give Ruff the license to push in here and be very aggressive.
Yeah, the Vikings have taken down the 2 Colossi. Marines and Marauders are now perhaps trying to push their way up here. The sentries are doing their job. The Vikings just flying around, taking damage, not quite sure what they're going to do. They're going to try to land in the main base, I think, and split up this army. The Marines and the Marauders are going up against Zealots. The Vikings are just sitting by the robotics facility, and there is the GG by Kodak. Ruff taking game 3 and putting, once again, vVv Gaming in the driver's seat, as it looks like it will be a Terran versus Zerg next here on Wednesday night StarCraft.